What's up, Subie Nation? DJ here with SubieBros, and today we're doing an overview and install of the Perrin pitch stop brace and the Perrin pitch stop for the 2015 and up WRX and STI. Let's talk a little bit about why you need the Perrin pitch stop brace. From the factory, the engine mount, transmission mounts, and pitch stop are very soft, and they allow the engine to move a lot inside the car under acceleration and deceleration. What this does is over time, it can wiggle the pitch stop back and forth and cause the pitch stop to break off the firewall, like in these examples we'll show you. When this problem occurs, it's due to the pitch stop mount on the firewall not being strong enough to be able to take the force of the engine moving. This problem exists both on the WRX and STI, but is more prevalent on the WRX due to the softer mounts from the factory. So let's go ahead and see what comes in each of the boxes. All right, so we're starting with the Perrin pitch stop mount. So you get instruction manual, and it comes with various installation hardware. It comes with a new stainless steel clutch line, which will show you why this is needed. Then you have one side of the support bracket. Then you have the other side of the support bracket. All right, so there you go. That's what comes in the box for the Perrin pitch stop brace. Since we went to the trouble to install the brace and reinforce it, we're gonna go ahead and install the Perrin pitch stop mount also today. The Perrin pitch stop mount is stiffer and more reinforced than the factory mount, which makes there be less drivetrain movement, which in our opinion creates a better driving experience. So let's see what comes in this box. So we have, again, install instructions and some bushing grease, looks like. Then we have the Perrin pitch stop itself, the pitch stop mount. And both these parts are compatible with both the WRX and STI. So now we're going to go ahead and get to the install. Start by popping the hood, located on the left bottom side of the driver's seat. Reach your hand under the center of the hood, find the latch, open her up. We're going to start off by removing the engine cover. You'll just use a flathead screwdriver to pop off these two clips. The cover is now only being held on by two pins located at this part of the cover. All you need to do to get it off is pull straight up. So for the next step, we're going to remove the 8mm bolts holding on the coupler, and then also the 12mm bolts holding the intercooler on. To make the intercooler removal easier, we're going to go ahead and remove this mounting bracket as well. We're now ready to remove the intercooler. The easiest way to do this is to just pull it towards the rear of the car and wiggle back and forth until you free the couplers. For the next step, we're going to remove the wiring harness clip located on the clutch line support bracket. So to help us out, we're going to use a flathead screwdriver to push the backside of the clip down and then pop it out. We're now going to remove the 12mm bolt holding the clutch line support bracket. For the next step, we're going to remove the clutch line. To do this, we're going to take off the 10mm flare nut from here and the 14mm bolt holding on the clutch line here. Then we'll be able to remove the whole clutch line assembly and install the new one provided. Before we do that, we're going to use a hose clamp so that we lose minimal fluid. All right, we're now ready to start. As you start loosening the nut, make sure you have a couple rags handy as fluid will begin to drip. Now we're going to loosen the 14mm. Get our rag in there. Make sure that you hold on to the bolt itself and the washer.
We're going to now remove the factory clutch line. Just take your time and work it around the cables and hoses in the engine bay. You may want to use a rag to minimize the dripping of brake fluid as you remove it.
Now from the Perrin stainless steel line, we're going to remove the adapter piece. Install this first and then the clutch line. We're going to take a 14mm wrench and tighten up the adapter. Be careful not to over tighten the adapter. You don't want to strip the threads. One thing you want to keep in mind during this install is you want to make sure that the brake fluid level doesn't go too low. Otherwise, you'll get too much air in the line and you potentially might have to bleed the brakes as well. So just make sure it's topped off and the fluid doesn't get too low. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started on the actual install of the stainless steel line. So to do that, we're just going to get it situated first. We're going to thread it onto the adapter. All right. Before we fully tighten it, we're going to go ahead and get the other end hooked up. All right, and you want to make sure this is correctly configured by having the stainless steel line go off to the right towards the driver's side, going underneath this hose, and then it'll curve back around and land right here where it should. So go ahead and take your banjo bolt and washer. All right, we got that secure. Now we're going to take a 13mm wrench and begin to tighten the stainless steel line here, and we'll finish it off with a flare nut wrench. Once you get it snug, you may have to support the stainless steel line so that it's not turning as you tighten it. All right, once you've got that secure, go ahead and tighten down the 14mm bolt. At this point, we're going to finish up the clutch line job by removing the hose clamp. And we're going to zip tie the clutch line to the wires below. Yeah, go ahead and push. Okay. Tell me when you're ready. Just say ready when you're ready.
Ready.
All right, go. Go ahead. Go down. Okay.
Ready?
Down. Go.
Ready?
Down. Go.
Ready?
Down. So now that we've gone several more drain passes with no new bubbles coming out, you have a pretty good idea that there's no more air left in the line. If you do, it's important that you get all of the air out of the line, otherwise the clutch might not operate properly. So be sure during this step that you get all of the air out of the line, and don't forget to top off the brake fluid when finished. Now that we've completed the installation of the stainless steel clutch line, we're going to move on to installing the brace itself. The next step is going to be removing this plastic clip here. It's kind of difficult to get to. We're going to use this pry tool to get in there and just pry it off. You can also try using a flathead screwdriver. It just takes a little bit of patience. We went ahead and used a zip tie to bring the wires out of the way just to make the install a little bit easier. So the next thing we're going to do is install the rivet nuts into the firewall. A couple things to keep in mind when installing the rivet nuts are to make sure that the rivet nut is pressed as far in as it can go, and try not to pull it out as you're tightening it. Use the grip to hold it steady against the firewall. Also, when you begin to tighten, at first there will be resistance. It'll get a little bit easier. Then once you re-encounter tough resistance again, go ahead and back the bolt out and make sure that the rivet nut is secure. You don't want to over tighten it, otherwise you could strip it out. All right guys, now that we have our tool ready with the rivet nut, we're gonna insert it into the firewall and begin tightening. So you'll notice that it's beginning to crush the rivet nut, and so it'll feel hard at first as it begins to crush, but just keep going until it's tight. It out. Now to inspect to make sure that the rivet nuts are seated properly, just make sure that they're flush with the firewall, and you can see that these do not move around at all. They're secured in place. Next, we're going to remove the factory pitch stop mount. To do this, we're going to remove the 14mm bolt located here on the pitch stop mount, and then also the 14mm nut holding on this bolt to the engine. Next, remove the 14mm nut and bolt. Then just slide the pitch stop out. We're going to stop for a second to compare the OEM pitch stop mount to the Perrin pitch stop mount. You can see that the OEM one is made out of plastic, where the Perrin one is metal and much thicker. This should hold the engine much better in place and create a much more positive feel. Before going any further, you need to fully inspect the pitch stop mount. You need to look on both sides of the mount and make sure that it's free of any cracks, bends, or separations from the firewall. If you do find damage, take pictures and send an email to Perrin to make sure the appropriate next steps to take before completing the project. We're now ready to install the passenger side portion of the Perrin bracket. Make sure to grab the smaller Allen bolts with washers, and we're just going to hand tighten them. Remove the two 12mm nuts holding on the clutch master cylinder from the firewall. We're just removing the nuts, and make sure you don't depress the clutch pedal once it's removed, because there's nothing holding it in. We're now installing the driver's side bracket. To do this, we're going to slide it over the threads coming out of the firewall for the clutch master cylinder. We're then going to use the remaining larger Allen bolt and washer to thread through the threaded portion in the firewall. Getting the outside nut back onto the clutch master cylinder is a little bit of a hassle. So a little tip is to cover the bolt in a little piece of tape so that when you insert it into the socket, it's held in securely. We're then going to be able to start the threads. We're now ready to reinstall the pitch stop. Before we do, we're going to take the supplied grease and apply it to both sides of the bushing before we put it in. If you're reusing the factory pitch stop, just insert it now. Take the supplied 17mm bolt and washer and insert it into the passenger side of the bracket. Then tighten it down to 43 foot-pounds of torque. Don't forget to torque it down. Take the 17mm nut and washer and install that on the driver's side of the bracket. Torque that down to 43 foot-pounds as well. You may need to use a 17mm wrench to hold the other side of the bolt, as it may spin as you begin to tighten. Reinstall the front pitch mount bolt and torque down to 37 foot-pounds. We now need to secure the remaining bolts that we hand tightened earlier. We're going to tighten the clutch master cylinder bolts and the Allen bolt on the driver's side 15 to 18 foot-pounds. On the passenger side, we're going to tighten those 8 to 10 foot-pounds. Go ahead and reinstall the intercooler. Before tightening everything down, go ahead and put the driver's side bracket back under the intercooler. Now go ahead and put the two support bolts into the intercooler that attaches to the intercooler support brackets. Once you've got everything back in place, go ahead and snug it down. For the final step, reinstall the engine cover. Thanks for watching our video on the overview and install of the Perrin pitch stop brace and pitch stop mount. To purchase these, go to SubieBros.com. Follow us on Instagram and Facebook, and also subscribe for more videos like this. Thanks.